Hello, hello, hello. Hello and welcome, everyone. Just while people are joining, I'm just going to move a couple of files over. I'm Lynn from Cavi Central Guinea Pig Rescue, and I have actually found a quiet area of our house to speak with you with tonight's chat. And we're going to cover lots of things tickly. So while lots of people are coming on, let me just pop the chat up here on the screen. I just want to move a couple of files over that I can share with you. Please say hi as you come on in. I can see people popping in there. Let me just quickly move these files over, which we need. I ran out of a bit of time today. It's always the way when you're in doing what I do. You never know what's cropping up. And today we actually had a crow that needed some help. So very outside of guinea pigs, but yeah, a little crow needed some assistance. He was very disorientated and he's now here with us. Let me just pop this where it needs to be. There, I think. Oh, yes. Great. Okay, let me come back to you. Hello, hello, and welcome. Hi, everyone. Let me know if you can see me in this chat. I think something's gone wrong with our chat. Not sure. Can you see me in the chat there? Can you hear me okay? There's no comments coming through. I can see people. Can you hear me? Guys, let me know. Let me know. Then we're going to dive into our topic, which is really amazing because there's some really interesting info to share with you tonight. Let's see. No, I don't think you've got sound. I'm not sure what's going on. Not sure. Let's see. Let's see. Let's pop over and see if I can see it as well. Let me know, guys, if you can hear me, and I'm going to check on this other screen if we're there. Hopefully we are. Very quiet. Let's see. It may not be coming through just yet. Okay, I see that it is. I just can't see your comments. Why can't I see your comments? Okay. All right. I'm going to keep traveling along until we get something in the chat there to let me know that you can hear me or you can't. I'm going to assume that you can, in which case we will start going through things. Suzanne, hello. Can you hear me, Suzanne, okay? I can see lots of people there in the chat, but no one's commenting. So you can see and hear me. Great. Everyone else is just being very quiet. Okay. We're going to dive right into the topic tonight, which is actually all about ticks. And there's some really fascinating things that I wanted to share with you. Now, while you might think ticks are the only thing that you are the first to comment, welcome. You might think that ticks are very rare and unusual on guinea pigs, which they are. There's some pretty significant information to go through tonight that came about through one of the videos on ticks and a tick removal that I did a few weeks ago. And if you've seen that video already, that was a tick that was well and truly engorged and very large indeed. So before we actually go into lots and lots of detail on this, and there's some absolutely fascinating connections here. If you saw the heading, how a tick's connected to stones, I think you better hang around because it's really fascinating. It's something we touch on in other videos, but let me take you through it. So before we do anything, I want to take you just to another screen that I'm going to share with you. So let me bring this up and let's take a peek. That didn't work, did it? Hold on. Okay. And this one. There we go. just get that up for you. All right, here we go. So this very first image that you are looking at is the life cycle of a tick. And ticks actually have 4 stages. So they start out as eggs, and they then transform into larvae. They then transform again into nymphs, which is actually done by shedding layers. And then they transform into adults, again, shedding layers. But what you'll notice here is that we have seasons in this image because it takes quite a long time for ticks to go through this process. They're very different to other parasites like mites that have a far shorter life cycle. Ticks can actually have quite a long one, which people don't realize. So that in effect is 1 year, a 1-year cycle that you're looking at. Photo of a tick. The nasty bit about a tick is actually right up front with the mouth. And the mouth part has 2 little pincers, if you like, to attach to an animal so that they can take hold, and they really grip and take hold very well. So with the entire body of the animal proportional to the head, it's enormous. So those little pincers have to be very strong, and in fact they do burrow slightly to do what they need to. Oops, let's go back to the previous one. So in terms of the size of a tick, oh, where did we go? Here we are. Size of a tick, they can be really tiny. And of course, it's easy to miss them. If you're out walking or near bushes, you may not even notice them getting onto your clothing or anything else because they are very small. Indeed, tiny little things. And of course, when they go through their feeding process, oh, why is my screen jumping out? When they go through that feeding process, they become very large. So as they feed, they get a lot larger than what they are when they first climb onto an animal. So if we have a look here at this image again, we have, it's just a little bit more detailed than what I shared with you a moment ago. But essentially, you've got females laying lots of eggs, and they lay thousands of them. And the location of those eggs is not on an animal. They lay them in the grass. So that's quite important to know. But they lay them in the grass. They then hatch into larvae at about 4 to 6 weeks. And this is them as tiny little ticks, which of course they still need to feed on a host. And that's why the arrow is pointed to the person, because they want to do that. And then they go through the process of shedding layers, become nymphs. And again, at the nymph stage, they can feed and attach to a host. In this case, we've got a person. And then they shed layers and again become an adult, and of course can continue to feed. But of course, at the adult stage, they can then lay their own eggs. And the whole cycle continues. So the feeding time of ticks is quite lengthy, and there are lots of different ticks, in fact. But if we look at this little chart, you can see that roughly 96 hours, which if we divide that by 24, which is roughly 4.5, 5 days, the tick is getting close to being full. And they can stay on a host for 7 or 8 days, even a bit longer with some species. But the relative feeding time that they're on a host is not that long compared to their life. So it's really fascinating. Okay, let's pop back over to the chat. Did everyone see that? Hi, Alini. Hello. Hi. How are you? Did everyone see those charts come up onto the screen? Hopefully you did. Okay. But what I wanted to impress upon you there is that the bulk of the lifespan of a tick is not living on the host of the animal that it's feeding on. So it actually tends to stay mostly on the ground and in the bush. So, which is really quite interesting because when we think about mites, they really do stay on animals, permanently. But if we look, oh, great, excellent, it's coming through. So when we talk about ticks, the actual time frame that they're on the animal is a very short time frame. Now, in response to the video that I did on that tick, a lot of people were saying they should never, ever let their guinea pigs outside. They should always stay inside where they're safe. But what I would do is challenge you in saying that you are also not safe going outside if you have that opinion. So ticks are outside, and there's something that we need to cope with. Where we have guinea pigs, there's a few things that I want to sort of point out as to why it is so rare that we see ticks on them, and why you don't need to be afraid of giving them grass time, and even in fact why you do need to give them grass time. It's so important that you do. But firstly, ticks themselves, they need to survive on a host, which is by drawing blood. That's how they gain their food source. But they don't eat all the time. And in fact, they can actually, when they're young, before they're even nymphs, they can actually be without food for 30 days. So it's a considerable amount of time. And then as they become through different stages all the way through to an adult, even at the nymph stage, they can be without food for 300 days. That's a year. It's virtually a year without drawing blood on any animal. That's amazing, isn't it? And even as an adult, they can survive up to 600 days. So these little tiny ticks really last a long, long time without feeding on any animal. And that's really important. So we know that the time they're on an animal is for a very short period of time, up to 9 days, that they can live well and truly over 1 year. But the bulk of that is actually in the grass and on the bush where they live. Now, why do they live there? And that's where it's important to know that they love humid environments. Dry environments are really dangerous to them. So if you had a tick in your house, it's actually known that within 24 hours to 3 days, somewhere in that window, the tick will actually die. And that's because we live in a very dry environment. Ticks actually like a humidity range which is as high as 90% in the region that they're in, which is quite incredible because we have ticks here in Sydney. We don't live in 90% humidity, but the area that the tick chooses to live in does have that. So when we look at that exact location, it consists of grasses and bushland that is really dense. So you're not going to find ticks in manicured lawns and short grass spaces. They're just not going to be there because they're highly sensitive to the amount of dryness around them, absolutely sensitive to it. Therefore, if you have a back garden that you mow regularly, the grass is relatively short, your guinea pigs are safe. And that's why we rarely ever see ticks on them. So where is it dangerous for ticks to be? Or where is it more common for ticks to be? And that is with grass that is over 50 centimeters in height. So 50 centimeters in height is quite considerable. And what that means is that essentially you'd lose your guinea pig if the guinea pig was running around in that. So that's why we really don't get that many instances of ticks occurring on them. So coming back to the different types of ticks that we have, there's actually there's many different types of ticks around the world. There's lots. But they break them down essentially into three main groups. One is a bush tick, another is a brown tick, and the other is called a paralysis tick. Now, of the three different groups of ticks, the one that is really the dangerous one is what we call the paralysis tick. And, it can cause absolute heartache when we hear of pet owners that have dogs or cats that pass away because of a paralysis tick. But it's important, again, to know what can occur with those ticks. So ticks basically climb on board. They spend the majority of their life in the bush, in grasses, not on your animals, not in your home. They're not going to be there because they won't survive. The majority of the time in the bush. And what will happen is they climb to the very top of the grass when they're wanting to feed. They wait. They wait until something comes along, whether it's a person or a little animal. It could be a possum, it could be a dog, a cat, it could be a guinea pig, anything in long grass, highly unlikely to be a guinea pig. But so they wait. And then they climb aboard, but using their mouth parts, they have very barbed mouth parts, as we've already seen. They attach into the animal and then they feed. And that feeding process, as I've shown you, takes up to nine days, about 4 to 5 days, but some can be longer. So let's say well and truly by a week, that tick is full and ready to just drop off and find its own way again. So with a paralysis tick, the difference with them is that they attach to the animal in the same way, but in doing that, they secrete a toxin which affects the nervous system of the animal, and that causes paralysis. Now, it doesn't happen instantaneously, which is why, hello, Paradox, hi. So, which is why it can actually take time to affect an animal. So dogs that have long coats, the tick could have actually been there for a number of days, and most likely is. On speaking with a number of vets, it's usually about day 6, day 5, day 6, that they notice changes in the animal, which they then start hunting for and find the tick, which is well and truly well attached at that stage. And with these toxins that are released, they actually affect the nervous system and can cause ultimately death in some of these animals, which is frightening. Now, can they kill a human being? Well, it's actually really, really rare. It's extremely rare. You're more likely to have an allergic reaction to the toxins that they're excreting than you are to actually have death by tick. I don't think I've ever heard of it in the news. It'd be interesting if you Google it and find out, but it's extremely rare for a human to be that affected. But some of the interesting topics that came up again with that video, one of them was the mention of Lyme disease. Now, Lyme disease is a tick-borne illness which they carry. It's a bacterial-based illness, which when they excrete back into their host, they can transfer this. It's known overseas, but here in Australia, there's a lot of questionable, they say it doesn't exist here, and that most cases that occur here have come from overseas at some point. But there's other people would argue that no, it is here. So it's one of those very grey areas, but the black and white is that it is not here in Australia. But ticks can also carry Lyme disease. So are guinea pigs affected by Lyme disease? Well, given here in Australia how rare it is to actually have a tick on an animal, on a guinea pig. It's not uncommon for cats and dogs because they roam in that 50 centimetre length grass. But for guinea pigs, extremely rare. So given how rare it is, and that given they need to have the animal that actually carries it, it's very rare. So what have we got? Let's jump over to the questions. We've got quite a few coming up there. It's a really fascinating area, but you're going to be blown away by what I've got for you in a minute. So, Eleni, hello. Hi there. We miss you. We'll see you soon. But Eleni says, can you treat your garden for ticks just in case, or would that be dangerous for the pigs? Actually, you don't treat the garden. What you do is treat your animals. So products like Revolution protect them from ticks. So if you're really worried about them, like Turramurra here in Sydney is an area that's much more well known for ticks, and there are different zones where they're more common. And again, that's to do with that humidity and the density of the growth around there. If you're worried about that, just put Revolution on your guinea pigs, and then you don't have a problem. If they jump on, they'll jump right off again. So that's what we do. And yeah, it's really impressive. Yeah, these little guys are really amazing how they live out. And, you know, for all the worry that we have about them, remember the bulk of their time is not on a host animal. It's actually in the bush. That's where they want to be. They don't like dry conditions. Suzanne says, here we go. Reuters cites CDC research that found between 1999 and 2003, there were 114 recorded deaths attributed to Lyme disease. Yes, absolutely. And that would be outside. Oh, you've got in the US. Excellent. So outside of Australia, there's nothing here in Australia. Lyme disease is a very serious illness, but ticks, again, transport that. It actually comes from, let me just get rid of that for you. Hold on, we'll move on down. So Lyme disease itself is really nasty. It's called by Borrelia burgdorferi, which is a bacteria, and ticks can carry that. So when they basically ingest back into their host, that's how you can get Lyme disease. But again, here in Australia, we don't need to worry about it. Paradox says her house backs onto the rainforest. So it might, yeah, you might have to get some revolution, which would be good. But again, bear in mind that ticks want to stay in a high humidity environment, and certainly a rainforest, questionable. But the ticks themselves, they choose typically bush that is, or length of grass that is over 50 centimeters. So you would lose your guinea pig if you put them in that. If you have a mown lawn, that's why it's relatively safe. Absolutely. So this comes back to our question. Hi, Kathy. How are you from Ipswich? Hello. So this comes back to lots of comments that were occurring on the video saying, I will never let my guinea pig go outside. I don't want them to be on the grass at all because it's unsafe. So I think we have to take a step back from that and be a little bit more practical. But there's a really amazing connection here as well that I need to share with you. The first thing is that we go outside, and every time we go outside, we also risk, ticks being a part. They're out there. They're going to be in different places. So we risk that ourselves. We let our children play. We let our other animals out. So that's fine. But with your guinea pigs, try and put them onto an area of grass that's actually short, not 50 centimeters in height, but where they can move around, because of course the nutrients and food in the grass is really vital to their digestion and everything else. But the other key aspect about having them go outside is vitamin D. And we get that from going outside. From UVB, your body will convert and make this. Animals can actually eat or consume vitamin D3. It's only found in animal products. And so specifically talking about D3 here. But for herbivores, they really need to rely on their body making that. And the only way that your body actually makes that is by being in a UV environment. Paradox has got a question. I'll come back to that in just a moment, Paradox. So vitamin D enables the absorption of calcium in the intestines. And when we talk about stones and we're looking at a high calcium diet, you can start to see the implications if your guinea pig does not have enough vitamin D on board, because it then becomes prone to the creation of stones in the body. This is just one small connection to stones. There's quite a few of them. But the level of vitamin D3 is really, really important. And it's specifically D3 that is actually needed to break down calcium when we talk about vitamins, vitamin D specifically. So the D3 that your body actually needs. When we talk about window glass, are guinea pigs okay if they're inside and the light comes through the window? It's interesting there, because window glass actually absorbs UVB light, and that's essential for the creation of D3. So in coming through the glass, you actually lose a lot of the UVB that you would normally absorb if you were direct in the sunshine. And in reality, about 10 minutes a day is actually needed for us to do that. So it's pretty important that your guinea pigs actually get outside for that reason, simply because of the connectivity to the breakdown of calcium, absorption of it, using D3. So fascinating. Let's jump over to some of the questions. We've got, just going to go back up because we've got quite a few in the chat there. Hustle, you've got lots of questions there. Paradox, start there. So Paradox says, my backyard is also known to having funnel web spiders. Yeah. Look, funnel web spiders are really deadly to us, but they actually, I think it's dogs, they don't harm at all. So it's not necessarily true that they will hurt or harm other animals, because the toxins work and affect different animals in different ways. So I wouldn't put your guinea pig with them. Definitely not. But yeah, we haven't actually had anyone with a funnel web bite on a guinea pig that I know of. But I certainly wouldn't, you'd have a very different impact on the animal. But I wouldn't want to test that out, Paradox. So just be safe, and for your benefit too. Be safe. Hustle, you've got a guinea pig problem. You watch your channel. Oh, thank you. Female guinea pig is not breathing nicely. Okay. So, yeah, jump into the group above that Suzanne's put the link on, and you can do a little video for me, put it into the group, and then I can have a look at it later. So there's a sound coming from her nose. Please, can you explain what has happened to her? It could be a respiratory condition. If it's high up, it can be an upper respiratory. It could be something in the nasal passage. There's bone obstructions. There's all sorts of things can occur. The most common is a respiratory infection. But what I'll get you to do, Hustle, is take a little video with your phone and put that into the group. And then I'll pop in there later and I'll have a look at that for you. Respiratory infections are really serious, and in that way you really should act on them fast, which means getting a vet on board, because they usually mean having antibiotics. Okay, so Paradox says, yep, there's not a lot goes through windows. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we have to have UVB lighting. So you don't often see this being recommended, but you can actually, if you're worried about the amount of daylight, you're never taking your guinea pigs outside, never giving them grass time, you can get UVB bulbs that you can put in, so that when you have the lights on during the day, it's actually generating UVB for your guinea pigs. So it's very different to the demands of reptiles, but given the connection to calcium, we do need to consider this. So their grass time is important, very much so, as well as for the nutrients and the balance there, but for that aspect as well. Paradox again. You look for holes, so you've been careful, have an ounce. Oh, okay, for your spiders. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we actually get them because we have a pool, and we get mouse spiders more so than funnel webs, but they look very similar. Mouse spiders have an abdomen which is sort of dark grey rather than solid black, and they're still actually taken to, we have the Australian Reptile Park here that milks them and creates the antivenines that are used through hospitals. So we always capture them and set them up in a little cage and take them up there. But yeah, you just don't want to handle one of them, that's for sure. All right, so we have any more questions about ticks? Tick removal. Okay, there were lots and lots of comments about this, and people saying, oh, we didn't get the tick off right, we didn't use the tick tool, da-da-la-da-la. The most current, up-to-date advice with a tick is to freeze it, which is exactly what was done in the video. And the reason you freeze it is that you instantly stop that tick from digging further and releasing toxins. Because the minute it actually is disturbed, it wants to dig and hold on further and tighter, and that often means an influx of toxins into that area, which you don't want to have occur. Now, in that particular video, it was a surprise to find that tick there. It was enormous. If you haven't seen that video, go back and take a look. But in that moment it was discovered, it was disturbed. So at that point of being disturbed, sure, I could have put it down, wandered off, gone and got a tick tool, come back. But the reality is it has been disturbed. So it's then going to release more toxins. immediately freeze it. And I had that there, which is what we do, freeze the tick and then take it off. And you could do that using tweezers. You don't need a tick tool to do that, but you do take it from the head. You actually, that little tiny head that's got the pincers, it's important to take that out. And that's what we did first go. So yeah, take a look at that. But if you're thinking that you've got to use a tool, some people were saying put jelly on and put petroleum jelly, do these other things. That does not stop the animal from injecting toxins back into the host. Only freezing does. It has to be immediately frozen, which is what we did. So it's a good reason to have some freeze. They actually say, have some antifreeze around, but I don't know how that would go on using it on anyone. So I think the actual freeze anesthetic is probably a little bit more appropriate. But yeah, and at the end of the day, when you have a tick, you need to use what you have around you to remove that. You don't want to leave them on with that. Oh, thank you. There's the link to the tick video so people can watch it later, because it was a gigantic tick. Now, in all of my years here in rescue, in seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of guinea pigs, there has been about 3 ticks. So it shows you how few guinea pigs come in with them. And that by far was the most enormous and gigantic one we've ever seen. So yeah, not good. Not good at all. So we know how to take them off. So the first thing is ticks, very, very uncommon. We've looked at the life cycle of them and why they don't live on your animals. They're not going to be there for long. They simply hop on. They're an opportunistic animal, but they spend the bulk of their life in the bush, in grasses, in dense, high humidity areas. That's where they like to be. They don't like to be in houses, dry spaces, groomed lawns. It's far too dry. They will die in a very quick amount of time with that. So that's the first thing. Second thing, preventable. If you do have ticks in your area, like you've noticed your children get them from time to time, use Revolution. Revolution for puppies and kittens. Use that on your guinea pigs. It will prevent ticks, which is great. And yeah, lastly, to remove ticks, spray them with an ice spray and then remove the tick in full. Okay, Kathy says, my 7-year-old male seems to have lost his squeak. He sort of hisses at me instead. Is he getting enough water? A lot of animals, when they're dehydrated, guinea pigs dehydrated, they get a very coarse sound. So he may not be drinking as much. So weigh him regularly so that he's not gaining or losing weight dramatically, and monitor what he's actually drinking, because that is something that does happen. Yeah. So just check his hydration levels with that. They do get thyroid issues. Check that he hasn't got a lump or a bump in around this area occurring, because thyroid also can affect their voice. But predominantly, the most obvious thing to go to is actually hydration with guinea pigs, with their sound. Check that first and go from there. Yeah. Awesome. Let's run down lots of questions in the chat here. Hold on. There we go. No lumps there. Good. Okay, so no lumps there. So Suzanne says, would an ice cube work on a tick? Instead, no, because it would actually, the minute you touch it, you're pushing on it and it feels that instant something's trying to get me off. The idea with the spray is that it hits it so quickly that it immobilizes the tick from doing anything. It literally dies from that. So literally it's instantaneous. They can't re-inject and you can take them off instantly. You have to get them off straight away. So yeah, it's a good idea to have that available. I've been in situations in the bush where we've had a tick hop on a little young person, and in doing that, you have to use what is available to us. We didn't have ice spray there. We had tweezers, just took straight off. So it depends what you are, but here in Australia, good idea to go out with that. We would next time for sure, and I do now. That happened many, many years ago. Yeah. but the eye spray is the most effective. So Paradox, I put a tunnel in my cage today with all 3. Went in. Yay! Well done. Well done. Well done. They're all sharing them. Excellent. That's great. So I hope I've shared with you a little bit about ticks, and that while you see a lot of the videos we put out that are very, I guess, shocking and can frighten people and think they'll never take their guinea pig outside again, you need to look at the reality that this is a very rare moment, a very rare thing that's actually happened, and we got it on camera for you. But also that, just in order to live life well, for guinea pigs, they do require UVB. And that means going out into the daylight, out into the sunshine. We like to recommend that they do that at least once a week. But, there's varying pieces of information out there that say 10 minutes a day through to once every fortnight. I don't think there's been any real studies on that as yet. But I would say, giving them regular UVB really does serve them well. And in terms of the connection to creation of stones, it's really important that their D3 levels are maintained. It's a pleasure, Alini. Paradox, I watched the new assist video. Does the smell that stuff? Actually, no, they're not very smelly at all. No, it's abscesses that really stink. They really do. But no, not that bad. Not that bad. But you get some cysts that also have runny pus. I think it's that more of that pus component, and it's very, it's not nice. Not nice. That was a very big cyst, wasn't it? Yeah. There's actually a few more different ones coming your way with that. And you'll get to see them soon. All right. With that, it's been great joining you here again tonight. And for those people that will join this and watch this later, pop your comments down below, because again, I come back to them like I've answered a lot of questions from the tick video here tonight, and hopefully we'll address that issue so you can really understand why it's not so much of a risk, and that if you take precautions with Revolution, you don't need to worry anyway. But keep an eye on that. Can I ask you, if you're here tonight, to please press like on this video, because that will enable it to be shared more so on social media. We have hit over 12,000 people now, which is fantastic. And it's really great that these videos are helping people understand the risks in proportion to, other things that we need to do to keep guinea pigs healthy. So I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday as well. One more question in there and then we'll head off. So Suzanne says, in summer, my girls get grass time in the cool of the evening. In winter, they get it direct sunshine. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Weather permitting, absolutely. And look, there's nothing quite like fresh grass. These guinea pigs are foragers. They love it. The nutrients and enzymes are great for them. So it's fantastic. I thought it was funny. Hello. Hi, nice to see you. 4:39 a.m. Oh my goodness. We'll definitely go back through this because it's got some great info for you, which will help you enormously with ticks and lots of the tick questions. I'll jump over to the tick video and put a link to this so that people, having seen that video, can actually see more about the things that you need to be aware of with ticks. Okay. So with that, I am going to fly. Thank you everyone for joining me. Please put a like on the video and share it out. And I look forward to seeing you again Tuesday night. I really love looking forward to this time with you. And I shall see you then. So take care everyone, and bye for now.